along with all. You hear those brakes? So loud. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jasmine if you didn't know, and today I want to talk to you guys about 10 common interview questions you're likely to see on your next graduate school interview. So I want this video to be a helpful tool for you guys. So if you want to practice your mock interviews at home, feel free to pause this video after each question so that you can practice your own personalized answers. So getting right into the video, let's talk about question number 1. Why are you interested in this graduate program? That is a question you're going to get regardless of the program you're applying to and regardless of what school you're applying to. Schools want to know why you think they are number 1. A great way to answer this question is to highlight some of the amazing things that this program does that makes it different from everyone else. So if I'm using my graduate school experience as an example, I'm pointing out specifically the opportunities that they've had for research. That was something that was very interesting to me, and I even went ahead and mentioned some specific research labs that they have that I would be interested in. Question number 2, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? This is a question I've come up with in other videos. Regardless of what you're doing, this is always going to be a question people are asking you. So for this question, you really do want to think about it. Where do you honestly see yourself in 5 to 10 years? How is this graduate school going to help your trajectory to where you want to be, regardless of whether that's in a hospital setting, a school setting, research that you might want to have done, a specific population that you'd like to work with, a trip that you'd like to go on to help propel you in different types of research, things like that. Very specific examples of what you want to achieve in a specific time span is what someone's looking for in that answer. So question number 3 is tell me about yourself. This question can be very difficult to answer because you might interpret this question differently than the person asking it. It's very open-ended. So I found that the best way to answer this question is to choose a certain number of experiences that you know will help you stand out from the other people who will be interviewed. So you want to choose the experiences that essentially got you to where you are today, why you are interviewing for this graduate program. So this is a great way to add in some volunteer work. Maybe you come from a different undergrad major, you want to talk about that a little bit. A trip that you took that was so influential and why you decided to pursue this graduate program, research that you've done. So the key here is not to talk about your GPA or your classes. Everyone comes in with a GPA and classes that they've taken. That is nothing new. What has made you different from the rest? What are some cool experiences that you have had that maybe no one else has had that makes you a great fit for the graduate program? So question number 4, tell me about your strengths and your weaknesses. When you're considering what strength you're going to include, when you're answering this interview question, it's probably best to choose something that has to deal with a graduate program, whether that be time management skills, working well in a team, talking with others, anything that's going to help you succeed in this graduate program. Those are great strengths to highlight. When it comes to weaknesses, I know it is often kind of hard to feel like you're including something negative about yourself, but the things that you might find negative might not always be negative, they're just different. So you might be someone who is extremely extroverted, introverted, someone who doesn't like doing presentations. I think the key when you're talking about weaknesses is to find something that can always be improved with a graduate school program or with practice. So if you're someone who is afraid of presentations, it might be helpful to highlight. However, to combat that, I've always been interested in joining a speech and debate club or doing more oral presentations in class so that I can overcome that fear. Question number 5, what is your favorite area in the field? I've also paired this with question number 6, which is what are some areas you are interested in for research? So this is a chance to talk a little bit about the things that you've found interesting thus far. I know often coming from undergrad, we may not be super understanding of all of the things that are happening in the field, but just take a moment to kind of do some research on things that you might like. You don't have to know that much about it, but say why you're interested in it, say why you're wanting to learn more about it. For example, I'm very interested in the neuro part of speech language pathology. I've always been interested in the brain. I've always wanted to do research in that area, and so that is something I would highlight in my interview. So questions 7 and 8 are kind of not scenario questions, but it makes you do some thinking. So tell me about a time that you had to be flexible, or tell me about a time that you had a big responsibility and how did you handle that responsibility. There are so many different ways that you can answer these questions, and so what I suggest doing is picking one scenario that covers tons of bases, where you were flexible, where you were responsible, where you had to make a big decision. So regardless of what they're asking you, you have one common answer that can fit for a lot of things. And that just really helps you not feel so overwhelmed. And if you feel like you're stressed for time, I always tend to repeat the question back to make sure I understood them correctly, and then take a little pause. I think people prefer for you to pause and be thoughtful about your answer rather than jumping the gun and you seem very nervous or you don't give a good answer. Question number 9, what can you bring to this graduate program? This is a great question to, again, talk about some of the different experiences that differ from other people that are also getting an interview. So again, whether that's a different program that you've come from, research that you've done, seminars you've been to that taught you a lot about a specific subject, what is it that makes you amazing and is gonna make them glad that they chose you for your program? Okay, so question number 10, clinical scenarios. These can vary in how they look, what scenario you're gonna get, so it's very hard for me to give you an exact answer to how to answer this question. However, I do know that some schools will give you articles to look at, and if you are in an interview and they give you an article, they tell you they're gonna ask you some questions about it, please, please, please read that article up and down, backwards and forwards. You need to know everything there is to know about that article. And if I were you, regardless of whether the interview is on Zoom or whether it's in person, I would print out that article, have your notes on it, and even reference it during the interview. Don't be afraid to do that. It really does show that you've been thoughtful about your answers, and you want to make sure that you're not missing anything from the article and the reading that you did. Other clinical scenarios might include what you might do with this type of client, what you might do in an ethical situation. Just remember that graduate schools don't want you to be an expert. They know that that is the reason why you're coming to graduate school, to get more knowledge. But it is important to be thoughtful. The best thing I can tell you about these types of scenarios and the articles is to be thoughtful with your answers. You don't have to be the expert, but you do have to give a good answer. So don't rush it. Feel free to take a little bit of time to think about it, and you'll probably be okay. Okay, so before we end this video, can we talk about the sweatshirt that I'm wearing? If you don't know who Hallie Quinn Brown is, and if you don't know who Copy and Communication is, you need to look up both of those people because they are both beautiful Black women who are influential in the SLP field. So this is an amazing sweatshirt. I learned something new this Black History Month, and you definitely should too. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Don't forget to like this video if it was helpful, and subscribe for more amazing content. But until my next video, peace.